All right, in this video here, we're going to be learning about React. This is about your first 3 components you're going to write. You could write as many components as you want. You don't have to write the components that I'm going to write. But if you're wondering how to use React, you just kind of want to get up and going, and you just want to watch a tutorial rather than go through the docs, I think this is a good place to start. So I have my terminal open. I'm in a folder I want to use. I have first 3 components right here. Yours could be named whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to do this npx create react app, and then I'm just going to name this I'm going to call this demo. So it's going to download all this right here. Should be pretty quick. And okay, I lied a little bit, but you know, what's life without a little bit of lying? Not funny if you ask me. So what I'm going to do now is do cd demo, because CD is going to move me into a folder, and right now I'm outside of this folder. So I'm going to go into it here. I'm going to hit dir. If you are on a Linux or Mac based operating system, you could hit ls. And to me, I could see my files that I need in here. You don't need to do this step. It's just, you know, kind of extra. But now that I'm inside, what I can do is npm node package manager start. And so now that we have this fired up right here, which is pretty cool, let me bring this over from another screen of mine. Here we go, and we have all of this right here. Never mind this update up here. Seems like I have to update everything every other day on my computer. So I'm going to drop down here, and there's all this stuff going on. If you're brand new to React, you may be thinking to yourself, like, God, is he going to go over all this crap right here? No, I'm not. I'm going to do a approach of least amount of stuff first, just to get you going. So that way you get familiar with a lot of stuff that you really care about. And then you can start, you know, going over what is package lock, what is package, and all that other good stuff. So we're going to go into app.js, which is where everything centrally happens. All of this magic right here is coming from app.js, which is cool. And so I'm just going to come in here, and what I'm going to do is just simply delete everything. This is typically your first move, the first thing you're going to do. So then what's your next thing you're going to do? Well, what I like to do, and I do have a little bit of IntelliSense and autocomplete, and I do have this GitHub Copilot there. So if you see stuff appear on my screen, only pay attention to what I want to write. And so I have this weird, you know, start, open, and close, you know, these bracket things right here, but there's nothing on the inside. Typically you would see, like, you know, H1, but that's not what I want. In React, if you don't want to return something like a div or an H1 or whatever, you could use these and it works just fine. The thing is that you do need to return like kind of one thing. So I couldn't, you know, legally do something like, you know, return H1 and then have a paragraph tag below it. Yeah, it must be wrapped in a closing tag. So if I took this out and did that and put those 2 in there, now we have no problem. We just need one unified element or tag on the outside to return, but you could have as many as you want to in the middle. So we're just going to keep it like this, and you notice that everything is blown away now, which is, you know, kind of sad, but we're going to come up here and delete this. All right, so now we've deleted that, and that's little, you know, not a lot's going on. So typically the next thing you're going to do is, and this is in a lot of projects I see, and the larger, more enterprise, meaning you work at a company kind of stuff, you'll see a lot of different kinds of folders. But you'll always like see a components folder. So what are we going to do with a components folder? So this is where we're going to do something, and let's just call it header.js, just like that. And I have some shorthand on here I've downloaded It's like a React snippet. So I'm going to do RFC, which stands for React Functional Component. And now what I have is this cool thing right here. And it's, nearly identical actually to this app. And this is how we're going to write our first component in here. So what I'm going to do is actually I kind of want to return that div. And then inside of it, I want to do an H1. And let's do dot class name. And you notice it's not class like a traditional CSS, right? It's its own thing. And that's because what I'm writing isn't really HTML, it's JSX, which looks like HTML, but it's parsed and manipulated differently. But they kept it looking like HTML so it's easier for people to pick up, which I applaud a lot. Actually, let's see if it even just does this. Oh, sweet, it does do it. Sometimes I don't know how smart IntelliSense is. So we have this right here, and let's just go in and do best website ever. And what I want to do up here as well is give this a class name of header. And that's because as I'm doing my CSS, if I'm going to manipulate anything in the header and I'm going through my code or I'm going through whatever means, I want my class names to denote kind of what file I am in so I could keep track, right? And so how do I get this to here though? Because everything is just a series of functions that you're going to use. Functions inside of functions with some HTML looking stuff called JSX. So I would come back into here and I would do import and I would do header. And because my IntelliSense works, it finds the path of where I'm bringing it in and it would just look just like this on your computer. I would come in here and it's like I'm making my own HTML element, except not quite because this is JSX. So we have that. And now we have best website ever. This is your first component. That's pretty cool. So what if, this is fine, but if you turn this in for a homework assignment to your boss, you'd probably get an F or, you get fired or something because what good is this doing? So let's style it. And the thing with React is it's not opinionated on how you style it because there's a lot of different approaches. But just for this video, I'm going to use index.css. Index.css is being brought in here. And this is kind of where the React stuff is happening. As you can see, we have app.js here. App.js is being brought in here. And this is the kind of the magic that's kind of taking all of our functions and essentially jamming it into our, view we see here. So since I know this is being imported here, app.js is going to see it. App.js is here, and any component that I bring into app.js is going to use this file. I'm going to stick and just stylize my stuff in here. There's many other strategies you could use, but this is the one that I am going to be going with. You could use SCSS. It's like I said, it's not opinionated, so you go with any route you want. So I'm going to copy and paste these stylings in just because I think it would make it faster. And this is more about React than it is CSS. So I'm changing the background color, giving it a flex, and I'm just centering a bunch of stuff. And then I'm making the color of the font white here. No big surprises. And now I have this, which is cool. A few seconds ago, you didn't really have this up and going, but now we just wrote a function, a very small one. There's no logic or special JavaScripty stuff going in here. We just got some good old JSX that looks like HTML. We're importing it in. And then we have this thing that looks like an HTML element. And we just jam it in there. And then we stylize it this way. And then we have this. I think that's pretty cool, right? So I want to show you something else. Next, I'm going to make the footer. And you're like, well, what about the body? And that's kind of the cool thing. You could do these out of order because it's just like Legos essentially. So we're coming in here. We're going to keep this. Let's just give this a class name of footer. And because I'm all about the shameless plug, I'm going to say subscribe to Jesus. Take the compiler. Hopefully I spelled that correctly. That'd be really embarrassing, wouldn't it, if I spelled my own channel name wrong? So we have this. And how do you think we're going to use this? How are we going to bring it in? Just like we did before. We're going to come in, footer from, actually, let's see my IntelliSense. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to let that autocomplete. I'm going to hit save. And now I have this right here, but this looks ugly. How do I fix it? I'm going to come in here, and what I'm going to do next is just come in, go to my footer, and I'm going to copy in these styles from another page of mine because I have the code side by side. I'm going to hit save, and now I have this. Because if you're working, as a team of some kind, you may just have to make the footer. You may only make the header, right? And it's cool because what you're seeing is you could take traditionally what would be one mega file, and you could split out blocks of code into small pieces, and then you could just start attaching them together, and everything is kind of awesome. I think so, at least, right? So the next thing that we're going to do is work on this thing called the body. Now, what I'm going to ask of you when this is all over, you could just, give me the finger and do what you want. But the body is going to be large. It's going to be larger than the other things we've made. This is a pretty simple idea, and not all React files are small. I'm just saying that off the bat. This is an example. But as we go through this, think about divvying up the code, right, as we go through this here. But I'm just going to keep this as is. I'm going to give this a class name. Once again, that's how we use our CSS here, of body. And let's see here. Let me go ahead and let me do this. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to have a div. We're going to call this hero text. We're going to have an H1 right here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Okay. And then we're going to do an H3 below because that's just kind of what I coded up. I have a crap load of videos. So let's just see how this works. We've seen how we bring in header and footer. We're already done with those files, so we're going to clean them up here and just X out. And let's come in here. And I try to do things in order. Sometimes you don't have that control, but it is what it is. And rinse and repeat is the other two. And now you see that we have this right here. Well, let's keep coding. What else could we do? So we have the hero text right there. And what I want to do is make essentially a bunch of like low level, low grade cards because, I kind of want to, but also that's just kind of how I want to stylize my website. And by the end of this, it may not be the most impressive website ever. And one, this is a demo. 2, iteration. Not every website is going to look amazing the first time through. And then 3, I think this is a good instructional for you to take some of your ideas and get up and running with them. So we have the hero boxes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another div in here. And I'm going to make a hero box. I'm going to hit enter there. So we have a div inside of a div right now. I'm going to do H2. And then I'm going to do code Quickie series. Quick code tips and hopefully a quick amount of time. And say I want to replicate this. How do I do it? I can just come in here, no magic, right? Control C and Control V. So what about my, material, UI series, which it's actually the first one I've worked on. So we could do use Material UI to make your React site pretty. And I also have a chakra series, which is, you know, same idea as Material UI. Chakra UI. Like Material UI, but I feel has 100 more components. There's a lot in Chakra. And so we have all this down here. So how do we style it? Well, let's come in here. I'm going to put some space in between the header and the footer here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, really just copy this in from another file here, because like I said, this is more about the styling, or more about the React than anything else. So we have this, and you know, this is also not the most responsive website ever. But say I wanted to go a bit further, right? Maybe I wanted to come into my body and add something else. So now that we're outside of the hero boxes area, maybe I want to do a block quote with a class name of body quote. And then in here, I'm just going to copy this from my other page just to save some time. I learned so much stuff from this channel. I just want to give this jerk all my money. Real talk. That is some real talk right there. So I know I have this block quote here, and it looks, oh, I guess, decent. Okay, it looks like some text. But I'm going to copy in from this other page I have here, this style. And so now, going from top to bottom, because I realize sometimes it's annoying in videos, you try to get to that area where you hope they like scroll over something so you could pause it. So this is the base stuff you're going to have in your CSS in like every React file. This is my CSS for my header. I'm going to add a little space there. I got my hero text, my hero boxes, each hero box, and then every H2 that is the child of a hero box class takes on this. My body quote, which I just entered in, which y'all still need to see, and my footer. So if you have to pause on any of that, there you go. And so now we have all this right here, and this actually does not look that great. So let me go back into my CSS here and see what I could possibly do, because I feel like I made an error somewhere in my code. Actually, let me look in my code right here. 1 second. Oh, and I did find it. Sorry about that weird edit there. Let me save this. Apparently, I got a little too excited. So let me come into here. And now I have this. See, this stuff happens all the time. And I have I've been salaried for a hot minute. So anyways, this is your first three React components here. You got your body, your footer, and your header. And you may have other stuff in here. You may even see in your body, you may want to break this out into its own component. You may want to take this entire hero boxes section and break it out into its own component. And that's kind of the joy of these things, because if your file starts to get too big, you could just logically start to organize it in your structure over here. And now you have a bunch of hopefully smaller files that you can navigate through, make them easier to test, and write logic for, which is super cool. So if you like what I'm doing, and also like seeing a somewhat seasoned person like myself make errors real time and then keep them in the edit, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next video.